And hello everybody, today we are gonna start the first of many Rav Rants, which is the new format for I'm Bad at Video Games, where I will talk about something that I like, dislike, or annoys me of the gaming community. And in today's case, what we're gonna talk about is clone games. What is a clone game? Well, it's not a real thing, or at least I'm not aware of it. Basically, what it boils down to, it's games that the community perceives as clones of other games. It might be true, it might not be true, but they're immediately dismissed as inferior, just out of hand. And I think that that's a huge problem with video games right now. The latest example I could think of is basically not Overwatch. What am I talking about? The one I can think of, the one that the most jumps to my mind is Overwatch and all the other hero shooters. Things like, how do I put this? Things like, Battleborn, Paragon, Lawbreakers, and many other games, even Evolve, which is totally different. And all these games were accused of being Overwatch clones in one way or another. They're accused of being runner-ups, of being just games that seem to want to steal Overwatch's crown. And even going from that, that's a problem right there. Because it makes things even crazier. It makes things so ridiculous. It reduces the arguments you can make about a game to, is this the popular game at the moment, or is this something else, right? Wow. It boils down to, well, does this benefit, who does this argument benefits? And I don't think it benefits anyone. Game makers are constantly having to justify the existence of their games instead of just making a game and letting, like, the actual game talk for itself. Like, people won't let games do even that. Let me see something. Oh, perk level 15. Okay, we can't do that yet. Let's go to survival. So yeah, the game just the community expects every game to either be totally original, and then they punish them for being original, or they expect them to be a clone, or not a clone, a sequel, and then they punish them for being a sequel. It's a no-win situation, because, okay, you want to make an hero shooter? You're going to be accused of copying Overwatch. You want to make a top-down action game? You're going to be accused of copying Diablo. You want to make a hard survival game? Well, you're going to be accused of being Minecraft, ironically. You want to make a game that's like set in an open world. You're a GTA clone. See where I'm getting at? And it hurts tons of franchises and games that could have been and aren't, just because people are decided that no, we don't want these games to exist. So you haven't. The worst thing is, even then, like, most of those games are not the original example of that particular game mode, and that's what pisses me off even more. Because let's talk about Overwatch, because Overwatch is the easiest one because everybody knows about it. Basically, Overwatch is considered like the hero shooter par excellence. However, it's not the first by a long shot. We're talking about 1997 for an earlier example. What is that example, you say? Well, simple. It's the very popular Team Fortress. And I'm not talking about the one you know from Valve with the cartoony characters and all that. I'm talking about the military shooter that originated in certain, like, FPS communities, which themselves were accused of being clones of Doom, which also was not the original FPS. That distinction belongs, if you're going to talk about strict shooting and killing things, that's going to be Castle Wolfenstein. Of course, Doom refined the experience. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is considering that the only valid example of a shooter, when there's so many more that could be argued are better or more innovative, right? And it can even become a curse because when you try to make a sequel, if it strays too far away, it's just it's inferior and it's bad and whatever. But if it's too different, then it's not true to its roots and it must be punished. Pretty much anything you do, it will be punished unless you meet this bizarre standard that I don't agree with. So, what do we need to do? Well, as a community, we have to realize that games are allowed to copy ideas from everything else. We see this in art all the time, okay? But nobody looks at a David LaChapelle photo and says, "Oh, the Da Vinci's Last Supper was better, and it's the only version of the Last Supper that should exist." First of all, because Da Vinci wasn't the first one to do it. Second of all, because it was considered an inferior work for a long time until things changed, and it just hurts the things we love. So we need to accept that there can be copies, there can be runner-ups. If this wasn't true, Overwatch wouldn't exist itself because it is a it is a reinterpretation of Team Fortress, and it's a very traditional reinterpretation of it. Even more so than, say, Battleborn or, God save us, Lawbreakers, which is a game that's entirely its own beast. It's it's like if you played Lawbreakers, you would know this. It feels more like Quake 3 Arena than it does a hero shooter. Yes, there's abilities, but that's not a first or a last. It's just a thing. The game has been heavily criticized for being a clone, for coming at a wrong time and all that. But honestly, I think the biggest thing is its perception of being just Overwatch light, which is not. So it is a game that draws its inspiration more from the 90s shooters than anything else. It's more like Unreal Tournament or Quake Arena than it is something more recent. It is, however, a game that manages to feel retro in a way without it being a bad thing. It's not hampered by its retroness. It's a reinterpretation of those things. And it actually makes the game even better than it used to be. Than it could be if it was just a copy of the old school things. An example of that would be Serious Sam. If you've ever played Serious Sam, that's a game that tries to be Quake, like the original Quake. And it's a fun game, and it's really good. But it does feel like old schooly, not in a good way. It feels like carbon copy of older games, and doesn't use the newest concepts in game design or things. So it feels like it's out of its time. It feels like it should have existed earlier than it did. To the point that sometimes when I Google Wikipedia or something and go for Serious Sam, it's like, Jesus, this thing existed alongside really more innovative shooters. It's just that nostalgia kept it going. And it's a good game. I really enjoyed the first one. You have no idea. The second one wasn't that good. It felt, again, like it was trying to parody older games, and it just became a parody of itself. So that's never good. But yeah, that's another game we could accuse of being a clone, right? I'm trying to jump in Destiny. Okay. So what happens is we end up with games that just can't compete, We have games that try and try and try to be innovative, and instead they're accused of being a copy. But what can we do? What can we do? Another clone or accusation that gets thrown so easily is the GTA clone one, or the Souls-like clone, either one of those. But I think Souls-like is more relevant right now. Right now, Souls games have the monopoly on Souls-like games, and it actually hampers the development of new Souls-like games, if we want to call them that, even though they're basically action-adventure games with a high difficulty curve. if we want to trace that, we could say of the original 3D Ninja Gaiden games. Those things were retro hard. Ninja Gaiden would actually wreck you on the tutorial mission, just like Souls games do, or even more. That the nunchucks was impossible to fight. He was so OP. But well, you know, we have this idea that Souls games are the benchmark for everything, and they're good. God knows I love those games. Everybody knows I love those games. It doesn't mean that they're the only way we can look at it. I also love Lords of the Fallen, a game that is infinitely easier, that's for sure. But it's fun, and it's an entry point for Souls. If I hadn't played that one, Lords of the Fallen, I don't think I would have played the Souls games. Like, just simple as that. I don't think I would have had the guts to go in. It is a game that's, sure, it's not for the hardcore, but not everything has to be hardcore. Not every game has to be competitive. Another chat for another time that I will address. But okay, right now we're gonna go with the clones. Not Overwatch. Lords of the Fallen knew exactly what it wanted to be. It wanted to be baby's first Souls-like game, and people tore it down to pieces because of that. Why? I have no idea. Because, okay, not every game has to be for you. Some games can be for people that don't like a high difficulty curve, but still want to feel like they're being challenged. And the changes done to the formula were very good. And eventually they were implemented into what is this game? Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3. In the end, that's what happened. Like everything was implemented into those two games. Every little change I've seen in Lords of the Fallen was adopted by Souls-like and praised as innovative things, also known as the iPhone problem. The iPhone was not the first smartphone. It wasn't even the best one, but it was the one that people liked, and eventually it became like, oh, this is the game, and you can't go and stray from this game. Like, this has to be the approved game for you. If you don't like it, if you don't think that's true, well, you're wrong. And that's where we got the whole Android versus iPhone rivalry. Even though the first one was Motorola, and it was better than the iPhone 3, but whatever. Anyways, so I don't know what is it about society right now that punishes like iteration instead of innovation. Iteration is a necessary part of game design. Like, you can't just go and say either innovate or don't do anything, because that's not true. Games get better through iteration. Anything gets better through iteration. Do you remember Windows 1 or 3? I remember, and they were not good. At least 10 tried to do something new with its adjustments. Another game, I mean, Quake changed. Quake 3 Arena, the iterations gave us a very refined first-person shooter kind of games that became really important later on. Without Quake and Doom importantly, or Wolfenstein, to go back to the original, the granddaddy, you wouldn't have anything else. Dune for PC was also one of the important games we had. That was the game that started the FPS trend, and through iteration it became better and better, and new games just iterated on that formula. Nobody blamed them for being Dune-like clones or things like that. The fact that the RTS genre is almost dead, save for StarCraft, is internally different. But again, we don't see that with RTS games. I think we don't see these accusations of something being a clone that we see in other games. Let me think. Like, no, I don't think anybody thinks of StarCraft as the only FPS, like they do RTS, just like they do with Overwatch. It seems to be more of a bro game thing in a way. There's also like this idea of the clones and everything is taken to ridiculous extremes at times. Like for example, with Call of Duty and Battlefield, everybody's like, "Oh no, Battlefield is better." It's or Call of Duty is just copying Battlefield, which is facetious because Call of Duty was there first. But even Call of Duty being the eponymous bro shooter, well, Medal of Honor games I think were existed before Call of Duty. But you know, people get these ideas in their heads, and they're very hard to change. Very hard to change the opinions of the gaming community. Once they decide something, it's impossible to make them think otherwise. And it's toxic. It's very toxic. The Soul-like one is the most important example of that. Like, the Fallen one of the Lords of the Fallen was a casualty of it, but I think even Neo doesn't save itself from the comparisons and the accusations of cloning and all those things. And I'm like, well, are they really clones? I mean, Neo is different. Neo is faster. Neo is crazier. But there were a few other games that tried to be like Souls games, if we're gonna call them that. And they got torn by the community. Like, the community just simply did not like competitors to the Souls-like game, which led to stagnation. If you look at Dark Souls 3, it's not really that creative. It's not at all. It's pretty much Dark Souls 1. And I think that if there were other things pushing Miyazaki, or whatever his name is, to innovate and do something better and new, he would probably given us an even better Souls game than what we got on 3. And you can see it because even the character designs, like, I know it's always been a copy of Berserk manga, but you feel it in Dark Souls 3 more than the first one. Something is happening with how we discourage innovation. And then again, we assign it randomly to games that are not innovative. Overwatch is not innovative in terms of its creation of a genre. That was, again, Team Fortress. That was like one of the first hero shooters we had. You could argue about, well, Battlefield itself is a hero shooter. It was a hero shooter in the beginning, until they like even things up. But at the beginning, well, no, you always had classes. You have the medic, you have the engineer, or whatever you want to call them. Like, there's always been someone that has a class-based game. Another game that the same, and people have forgotten about them, even though like super popular for a while, is the very popular for a while, Tribes. Tribes was a game that changed how things were done for a long time. Tribes was fast. Tribes was a shooter. Tribes had classes. Tribe had vehicles before other games did. It involved mechanics from other games like bunny hopping, rocket jumping, but it brought in its own ideas, kind of like other games do. But nobody talks about that as being a predecessor to, say, Lawbreakers or Overwatch even. It's just weird. It feels so weird to me. But then again, you also see funny things like character classes being like repeated constantly. Like, for example, Pharah exists in Paladins. Pharah also exists in Battleborn. Pharah also exists in so many other games. And I don't know how we're getting all these duplicates, like classes, because there's no way Benedict and Pharah could have copied each other. They came about at the same time, more or less. So it's this really weird thing. It's a very weird phenomena to happen. It's happened before in other things, like for example, Volcano and Dante's Peak, two movies came out at the same time in production at the same time. Like they could not have copied the idea from each other, and yet and yet we had them. It's insane. It's just I can't wrap my mind around it, around this idea that there's some games that or concepts that come out at the same time and they're exactly like in the outside they're the same. Like of course Dante Peak and Volcano are not the same kind of movie. Volcano was a ridiculous movie. Dante's Peak tried to be a little bit more serious, even though it used a Welshman as an American, but whatever. Uh, but neither was particularly good. But the point is not that. The point is that they both had different ideas. The only thing unifying them was the theme of a volcano and people running away from a volcano, right? Same thing happened to Overwatch and Battleborn. Hero shooter games, yet they have similar classes. And even then, like, let's be honest, Roadhog is Pudge, and Pudge is Stitches, and Stitches is from Warcraft 3, and then the mode Defense of the Ancients, Dota, the original Dota, not Dota 2, which again became like the paragon of mobile games for a while. To the point that people still argue about League of Legends and Dota, even though they're really different in how they function. You could say the same thing, but come on, let's get real. They're not. They're not really remotely the same. Oh god, hold on a sec. Ugh. They share the same framework, just like Volcano and Dante's Peak, but the way they go about doing things is completely different. Both games take their own approach, their own interpretation of things. Yet the community blames them for everything. I don't get it. I think if we start complaining about games being the same, about being, oh, this is a clone of this, or this is a clone of this other thing, we would be able to judge games on their own merits and realize that Overwatch and Battleborn could have existed at the same time, except for people complaining about them. That really hurt the game. The perception of it being a clone hurt it a lot. Like, a ridiculous amount. If you're gonna go about talking about other games, well, Lawbreakers is a fantastic game, a great game that has like 50 players every day. That's about as many players as you're gonna get on that game. However, if given the chance, I think it's one of the most innovative games around, and it deserves every ounce of attention it can get. Not just because I bought it and I want the game to not be a bust, but because I really do think it's worth your time. Honestly, it's $30. Get it. If you want to talk about survival games, which also get hampered with that whole idea, well, oh my god. Well, I think Ark is a good idea. It's a good game, but there's better ones. But I enjoy it. Doesn't mean that other survival games can't exist. No matter what fans of the genre may think. Same with PUBG, or what's it called? Battlegrounds. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or whatever it's called. That game is pretty much Ark Survival, just without dinosaurs, right? Yeah. But you can say that's H1Z1, that's a ton of games. However, right now it's the most popular version of it, and it has like 7 gazillion players. I don't see that as a bad thing. I really don't. Play it. Now, you don't like PUBG and its hardcoreness? Right now, Fortnite just released a version of it, and it's actually pretty good. So maybe try that one if you don't like the seriousness and hardcore interpretation that PUBG gives you. Give games a chance. That's, I think, the most important thing I can tell you. Give games a chance. That should be a t-shirt. Give games a chance. And a picture of Overwatch looming over a dozen games. I think it's one of the important things in this game. Like in the community, we need to give games a chance to actually shine, to be seen for what they are, right? And not just be like, oh well, this is just a copy of this other game, and that means it sucks. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all. What I would say is it means that there's more games that you can play, which is never a bad thing. And honestly, with how games are being sold right now, just get a copy. Well, just get a copy. Just get it on a sale. There's no longer this need to buy a game the second it came out. Just wait for it. It will get patched. Most games will get patched before they're released. So that's also a thing that you might want to keep in mind. Because, seriously, where did I get? What is this? You don't know when I bought that. Okay. So, yeah, give games a chance. You don't know how they might surprise you. They're cheap, buy them on a sale. They're not cheap, wait for a sale. Play many games. You don't have to get married to a game. Apparently, contentious opinion. I play... what is it called? League of Legends. I also play Dota. I also play Heroes of the Storm, and neither one of them has the same feel. If I want to get salty, well, not salty, nobody wants to get salty, but if I want like a real challenge, I'll go into Dota. If I want like a more structured thing, where like I know everything, how it works, and there's no crazy, ridiculous, like experimental things, I'll go into League of Legends. If I want to have like just some senseless fun, I'll go into, whatchamacallit? I'll go into Heroes of the Storm. Just as simple as that. Oh god. So, again, no need to get like super defensive about video games. Really, don't. No, there's no need for that. Okay, that guy's gonna kill me if I'm not careful. Ooh. Okay, so, that I think that's the closing argument right now. And now, I think it's time that we talk about something else. And that something else is I'm bad at video games going forward. I need to know that you guys are liking this, that you're enjoying this, that you think this was a good turn. Obviously, for me, it's easier to record the game I'm playing right now and just talk over it, and no need for like special editing or anything like that. It lets me focus on my points, I think. Obviously, I'm practicing my abilities, right? Talking and playing, because this is complicated. I might do it with like over simpler games, like Slime Rancher, which I really want to play. It's just I can't record off the Xbox 360 with as much quality as I can from the PlayStation 3, for a reason that to this day is a mystery to me. But whatever. I just think the application, the Twitch application, is written way worse. But whatever. Okay, hold on a sec. So yeah, the direction this is going. So my plan is a stream a week. Maybe have someone help me from time to time. Talk about something like this, like something gets me annoyed, angry, upset, whatever. You know, because there's nothing worse than having a community that complains about originality, and when they get it, they complain that it's a clone of something. Because it's not entirely new, but even when something is new, they don't buy it. So it's like, I don't understand gamers. I don't. So today was clone games. The next one is going to be the free-to-play games, and they're bizarre. It's the Schrodinger game. Should it be a free-to-play game? Should it not be a free-to-play game? Do we even have a right to complain about cosmetics falling from having very low drop rates? Is that a problem, cosmetics? Really? Like, complaining about cosmetics being like the carrot on your game. If your game can't stand on its own without collectibles, something is wrong with your game. And I see that a lot, like people wanting like, oh, we need more skins because otherwise I won't play this game. But you're not playing the game because you like the game. You're playing the game because you're addicted. So I'm gonna leave you guys to think about that one in preparation for next week. So what's gonna happen now is I will. When did I get this? Okay, let me sell this. I think I want to. I think I want to sell. To sell. What am I talking about? Jesus, my brain is mush right now. Hold on. Let's see. Can I buy this? No, I can't. Why? Oh, come on. Fine. I'm just gonna get explosives because I need something. I have 5 weight. Oh god. Never mind. That's it. Let's go kill the boss. Yeah. So that's the subject for next week. Besides that, if you like the new format, please let me know. Tell me subjects you want to talk about. If you want to talk about something in particular, I will talk about it. I like giving my opinions and things. I like to think I'm not the kind of person that's just like, okay, this is how it is, and this is how it should be, and will forever be, and whatever. But I do think I have good insights from time to time on games and whatnot. Okay, so what will I do is you will find this on Twitch, unedited. Then I will do some fat trimming on YouTube. So you will find a new version of it uploaded like soon. I need to cut it, download it, stream it, and download it, upload it, and then post it. And I will also put up the audio on its own because I think that's important too. And the audio will be available on SoundCloud. I'll make a new account and I'll let you guys have access to it. So if you want to hear me talk instead of watch me play, that's also a possibility. I don't know if that's something you guys want to hear about. I don't know if that's something important that you think I should do. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'm more of a talking person. God knows. If you want me to play a specific game while we're doing this, I can also do that. I can also do my impressions on games, which is something I also would like to do when I get tired or run out of things. So maybe do a whole game and talk about such and such or whatever, and try and present you with new games that you may not have thought about in one way or another. Yeah, so with that said, I'm gonna finish this boss fight, which is almost done. I'm not really paying attention to him, but I'm not even using the good guns. But any suggestions? I'll take them. You want me to tell you anything? Sure. We can discuss anything you want. You want to talk with me? Well, we have to have a chat before and maybe see if if we are on the same page. Also, gosh darn it, I can be found on Patreon as I'm Bad at Video Games. That's patreon.com/ImbadAtVideoGames. No spaces, no apostrophes, no nothing. If you want to donate for me to get better recording equipment, you can do that. You can also find me on Twitter as RAV3STYLE. That's at RaveStyle. I can also be found as I'm Bad at Video Games on YouTube, on Facebook, and on YouTube, where you can find me in the archived versions of these games and whatever I had to say. And finally, well, if you want to get in contact with me, Twitter might be the best idea. And finally, well, this channel, Twitch, which is also twitch.tv/RAV3STYLE, Rav3 style. With that said, this was I'm Bad at Video Games. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.